Ladies and gentlemen of the old world, I hope you're all doing well, and welcome to the showdown between Nurgle and Bretonnia here on the Crystal Lake. It's going to be myself with the Sorcerer Lord facing off against Plague Penguin, who's going to be using his own Sorcerer Lord, the Fey Enchantress, of course quite good for the Mortis Engine, and bunker busting those Nurgle blobs. Certainly love it. Now, as far as my build goes, it's going to be triple Marauder Horsemen, which are pretty essential. Very, very good against any of the big flying threats like Lewin or Hippogriff Knights, and honestly great against the Knights as well. Good for early objective grabbing. What's not to love? Now, we got Marauders and Nurglings and Occultists, a very kind of, I would say a weaker front line out of the gates because I did invest in some heavy hitters, aka the Soul Grinder. I like the Soul Grinder. It's good at killing the Peasant Archers and can put some heavy pressure on the Knights. Also a powerful SE in its own right that can cause terror in the late game. So just trying it out and we will see how it goes. On the other side, I do have a vanguard of the Frolickers and some Pestigors in the bushes, and they're going to be hanging out and looking to grab those objectives. Now, for Plague Penguin's army, the Fey Enchantress is going to be here with the Earthblood and Regrowth. You're bringing Hippogriff Knights and, obviously will see Questing Knights and things like that. So having the heals for that is going to be pretty essential. Her Mortis Engine is amazing. Chalice of Potions is good. What's not to love? Now, the rest of the army is going to be Marauder-centric. We got Halberds, we got Peasant Archers. Peasant Archers are uber MVP in this matchup. Nurgle has never liked getting shot with like arrows or, any sort of ranged really. You can shut them down, but Bretonnia is actually very effective at protecting their archers against Furies. If you decide to go for them, any number of their cav units will like insta-kill your Furies. So that is one element of the matchup that Bretonnia can cackle at pretty damn hard. So the Sorcerer of Nurgle does have the spell spam, so we're going to be using the, not spell spam, but Rancid as well as Fleshy. So just going to be trying to keep the Soul Grinder alive and using the sniping spell potentially to finish off some of the elite Bretonnian elements. So here we do see the Hippogriff Knights moving down. They do eat some throwing axes, immediately giving me some decent value, as we do see the Heretics moving up on Objective 3. Objective 2 is under our control as well, and on the outside we do have the Pestigors and the Frolickers Bubonic, who are going to be hanging out and enjoying their best life. Now, we do see the Hippogriff Knights getting kited a little bit, and they, I think, lose a model, which is pretty good for me. Obviously, they have a ton of HP per model, so being able to drag those guys down out of the gates is pretty cost-effective. And the Soul Grinder does rip a shot into the Peasant Archers, but unfortunately misses, kind of making me think I should have gone for the Arwar, who has ammunition draining as well. But we're trying our best. Charging in are the Hippogriff Knights, and the Marauder Horsemen will be responding to that soon-ish, one of these years, I promise you. And up on the high ground here, I do have some more Pestigors coming in because my opponent did call in some heavy cav, Knights of the Realm, which Pestigors can deal with actually decently effective, especially if you're near the tree line or near some sort of cover where they have trouble getting, good cycle charging on you. Now, the Royal Hippogriff Knights did get pounded a little bit. They charged in, got some value against some Marauders, but there was a response to the Hippos with the Marauder Horse and throwing axes. So they were able to get some work done. As now the Great Weapons of War are on their way in. So Chaos Warrior Great Weapons, very tough for Bretonnia to deal with. But Fey Enchantress is a good tool. Her Draining and Chalice of Potions can be very, very effective. So I really like that choice for my opponent. I thought that was pretty good. Penetrating into the secondary are the Chaos Knights, not the Chaos Knights, the Knights of the Realm, looking to hunt down some Chaos. But what's been really good so far is my opponent's usage of the, he plays Bretonnia so much. It's like, the peasantry just kind of, the peasant spirit is there, the fighting spirit of these peasants. But the Peasant Archers have been doing an excellent job at screening out my Marauder Horsemen. He's just been parking them back there. Every time I get in range, he retargets, which is a testament to how good his micro is. So I certainly have been enjoying that play. A couple of Furies called in, just looking for opportunities here. The Pestigors will be able to defeat the Men-at-Arms. Pestigor is going to be charging into the Archers here and just trying to find an opportunity to land these Furies. We're testing the waters, but I do have the 2 objective cap right here. We're up in points, pretty heavily, and value trading we're up as well. So things are going well. He does have healing, probably a little bit more than me, actually. I have been using Fleshies a little bit, but overall, he's been using Earthbloods and has been getting more value out of his healing, that is for sure. The Soul Grinder just shooting into the Archers, trying to break those bad boys because they have been countering my Horsemen pretty effectively. He's been doing a really, really good job with those. More Chaos Warrior Great Weapons being called in to do the full court press, and here I did get a little bit of engagement with the Furies, and they were able to do some nice damage against the Peasant Archers, but the Pestigors that were supporting them did break, so I ended up pulling them back, running through my own units to try and salvage those Furies and make sure I can get a little bit more oomph out of them over the course of the game. Now, call in here, not call in, but summon. The Cultist is going to be dropping out some Plague Bears. Plague Bears are okay in this matchup. I wouldn't recommend them as a core infantry because the Bretonnian Archers can really, really do a number on them. I think Shielded Marauders and Warriors, one of the more meta ways to play against Bretonnia isn't necessarily what I did. The Soul Grinder's off meta for sure, but Great Weapon spam. So just Chaos Warrior Great Weapons and just Warriors. It can be really, really tough for Bretonnia to deal with, that is for sure. But the Soul Grinder so far hasn't been bad. Got about 800 value. Shooting into the blobs here, doing some respectable damage, so I'm definitely not hating it at all. A couple Marauders going to be advancing up. On this side, Bretonnia does lose a couple of the fights up here towards Objective 1, but they barely had anything committed. And now some Knights of the Realm going to be getting their Lances couched for the lady. They do get in there and run down some of the filthy Beastmen, which you gotta love to see. But the Beastmen will be turning about face, applying their poison, and then suddenly, this is why Pestigors are so nice in this matchup. They'll be able to drag down a lot of those Knights on the way out. Furies ripping it up against the Peasant Bowmen, and 3,700 against 25. Marauder Horseman still online, and here the Soul Grinder is just shooting whatever it can. I would imagine it's close to 1,000 value, about 976 right now, but we are starting to lose this objective, and Bretonnia does have the double cap on us. We have a points lead, so we have a lot of time, so now I'm going to be refocusing my efforts on Objective 2. We got Pestigors and Chaos Warrior Great Weapons coming in, as well as Nurglings, who are going to be reinforcing Objective 1. So really, this is going to be the epicenter of combat. But really, the best thing he's been doing is keeping these Peasant Archers alive. They've been extremely disruptive for me, and also keeping the Royal Hippogriff Knights alive. They've taken some damage, but have also received some very cost-effective healing, so that has been pretty damn good for my opponent. Now, this objective is going to flip. We got multiple units of infantry coming up, 4.3 against 3,000, but with Bretonnia's healing, it's probably a much closer game than meets the eye. I would say that we're probably pretty close on value. I think I've used 2 Rancid Visitations at this point, and have only done like 1 Fecundity. So really, he's probably, on par with me in terms of overall value. These Earthbloods are very cost-effective here. So Fury's going to be landing on the Archers, hopefully able to tear some of those apart. I think at the last second I actually decided to switch that up because of the Knights of the Realm. Nope, we ended up going for it, so my memory is somewhat accurate here. As the Pestigors just farming these Knights of the Realm. Marauder Horsemen moving in a little bit just to fight. They're out of ammunition, so trying to provide some buffering. But the Fey Enchantress is doing great with her drains. So I do see a big Chalice of Potions come in. Nice cast from my opponent right in the epicenter of action. I do dodge it like towards the end of it, so you can see the Barbarians are going to be scattering. But some of the Warriors are going to be blasted by the Chalice of Potions. Very, very epic Bretonnian stuff. As the Fae is sitting on what kind of value? She's sitting at about 500, so nothing crazy. The Mortis Engine has not really been doing too much out of the gates. Some Marauders hanging in, and now we do see some heavy hitters coming in. It is going to be the Foot Squires, so Foot Squires are coming for a chopping time, and they're pretty good here. I mean, Pestigors will uptrade into them probably, but having some of those to deal with the Armored Chaos Warrior Great Opens and give you some stopping power in the blob fight, I don't hate that at all. So advancing in are the Hippogriff Knights, and now I'm going to be calling in Plague Ogres, I believe is one of my next call-ins. You can see I'm sitting at 1,500, which means, yeah, I had Plague Ogres in reserve, and I've been experimenting with them a little bit. I don't know if they're better than using the Bile Trolls. Bile Trolls arguably could be nicer because of the regeneration, and, they can, although the fire damage, against Bile Trolls is a little bit scary from the Peasant Archers, but we'll see how the Plague Ogres do. I mean, they hit hard, they have poison, they can definitely take on Bretonnian Knights, but are on the squishier side. They only have 50 armor, so yeah, they're not like Iron Guts or something like that. So subjective, the fighting is very, very hard here. And on the backside, we do have the Chaos Sword as well as a Soul Grinder, and this is the cool utility of a Soul Grinder. It's a pretty powerful SE fighter, so it's able to, go fisticuffs here with the Hippogriff Knights. It does have almost 500 weapon strength, and probably has gotten okay value so far. Hippogriff Knights sitting at 1,600 value, and this bad boy's about 1,500, so it will pay for itself before the game's over. So pretty happy to get some value out of that thing. I think that Soul Grinders are pretty good. Not all of them, of course. The Tzeentch one has kind of fallen out of favor a little bit, although you almost never see Tzeentch played, so it's kind of hard to say. But I got to play more Tzeentch. They're a really fun faction. I feel like people sleep on Tzeentch. I think they got some fat schemes, that's for sure. Soul Grinder bonking away, and the Pestigors and the Chaos Sorcerer Lord trying to fight, but man, oh man, have his archers been doing work. This whole time, without the archers, killing the Pestigors is incredibly difficult for Bretonnia, but he has been able to just get such good value from those, and it has been a problem. So Plague Ogres, a little bit slower than their Ogre cousins, are going to be charging in. They got their Great Opens out, and I'm hoping they'll be able to bonk down some of the Knights. But the Knights do get a retreat order at the last second. I believe I used Curse of the Slug on them, and they are going to get partially caught. Yeah, at least the poison is able to catch them. But immediately, once again, beautiful archer play from my opponent here. He's able to get the archers on top of the Plague Ogres, and that's going to be forcing me back to retreat because I do not want any of that smoke. Certainly does not feel good. So this is going to be a time for a bit of a regroup. I end up calling in a second Plague Ogre, so I really commit into the hard anti-large because he's got so many of these questing knights and Cav out on the battlefield, and I'm just kind of hoping that the dreaded Nurgle face-to-foot style will run him out of ammunition. If he's shooting at, the Soul Grinder, that's good. Thing has pretty good armor, although it is tired now, so it's not going to be as good, but, as far as the tired unit goes, it's pretty nice. But I'd rather that than, the Plague Ogres, who are just very vulnerable to that. We get a little bit of sustained value on the bottom side as the Chaos Warriors do chew through the remnants of the infantry here and are able to threaten that, which warrants a Questing Knight call-in, which is nice. And he's actually past me in value now, so I'm definitely on the back foot, but we're about to even that out. So I start to gather my Plague Ogres, and I'm going to be gathering all my SEs for a big heal here in a minute and all my valuable stuff. And the Plague Ogres, even with the Great Opens, will be very brutal against Foot Squires. Foot Squires are going to get chopped up by these guys. The Plague Ogres, I've found, yeah, they'll get the job done. You can see these guys are taking massive casualties, just hemorrhaging models, and the charge bonus of the ogres, they're still ogres. 50 charge bonus is very, very good. So they're doing some work here. Meanwhile, the Soul Grinder is going to be moving on in there to help out. And yeah, the Archer play, so good. Can't compliment it enough. But he's been getting so much and forcing my Plague Ogres back here. So we're going to be relegated towards Objective 1. And you're going to see a bit of a tactical retreat right now as we do drop a Fecundity down. So that's going to be a spread healing, which is going to heal all these guys. The Bretonnians are taking casualties here too, though. It's not one-sided. Knights of the Realm and the Foot Squires are both hemorrhaging models, down to 77 models from about 100. Hippogriff Knights are still going strong, though. Definitely a mistake to not just use Rancid on them a little bit earlier. And here we're going to get another Plague Ogre charge right into these Foot Squires. So on impact, they don't take too many casualties. They take about 5 or 6 casualties on impact. But it'll be even more if the fighting does continue on. This is a really nice maneuver, though. Making me kind of commit to a fight here, taking advantage of my lack of speed, and then moving over this direction to charge into my isolated ogres is just chef's kiss. Very, very nice. And they don't really have a lot of support, and they're eating so many arrows to the face here. So Knights of the Realm get it done. And here we're getting some picks of our own, though. The Furies are feasting, and we're starting to kill some of the archers. Down in the low ground, Pestigore is actually dragging down a ton of the questing knights in that fight, so that was uber cost effective for my guys, and my cultists there are still helping. So yeah, we are killing a lot of the archers now, which is going to give us a chance for a comeback, which is going to be very, very nice. So moving in is the Soul Grinder as well as the Plague Ogres, and the Chaos Sorcerer, Lord of Nurgle, going to be heading over towards Objective Uno right here. Nurgling's also going to be chasing these guys back, and moving on up are the Knights of the Realm and Knights of the Realm. So great Collins, they're going to be good against a lot of my units. So I noticed here I had some beat up guys. I had these ogres beat up, these ones beat up, but still with decent models, as well as the Soul Grinder. And he's got a really nice consolidation in the middle. So what we do is we fall back, we regroup, and we get a big old heal here, which is going to be getting us back in the game. So big overcasted fleshy, just chef's kiss, hits both ogres, hits the Soul Grinder. That's going to give us the second win we need to try and push them off the middle and go for the W here in the end game. So Pestigores move up. Gathering up, the generals gather in their masses. Yeah, classic little Black Sabbath action. But now comes the charge. So this is going to be the fate of Middle-earth here. If we can start to wrestle this middle objective, we can totally win the game. I mean, we are close on points. We're actually still ahead. It's not going to be easy, but we're going to do our best. So we do get the Furies landing on top of the Peasant Bowmen here, and the Pestigores, a healthy-ish unit of Pestigores and Ogres are just trying to chase down whatever they can. Ogres over here a little bit isolated, but honestly not fighting anything terrible. And they do have Nurgling support, so not bad. And the Questing Knights are going to be forced back a little bit. Archers trying to go about face. Probably should have used the Furies to kill these Archers real quick. But more and more Nurglings moving in, and now we start to get some momentum. You can see we're grinding down a lot of the infantry here. The Grail Relique, I believe he has one nearby, is keeping his army functional and really keeping a lot of the peasants in the game. Otherwise, these guys, would potentially be running away. They would not be happy at all. Marauder Horsemen being called in because they're just great in the situation, going to be really good against the Knights, but we finally have them in front of us. We're not being shot with arrows. Nurgling's going to be coming in to provide buffering for the Plague Ogres. These Plague Ogres have gotten only 500 value so far, but this is where they can potentially get their bread. Just beating on these Knights of the Realm, or are these Knights errant? I can't quite tell. I think these are Knights of the Realm. So yeah, beating on those guys is going to be pretty nice, especially with Pesties there. The grind is on. Our home objective, Objective 1, I guess it's not really our home objective, but the only one we have is unguarded right now, so a little bit precarious. He could maneuver up there, but that's why the Marauder Horsemen are very useful. They can screen that and help to mitigate that capture a little bit. We still don't have the capture weight points. We're right on the precipice of each other. 1160 against 1155. Down on the low ground, no games being played. He has very, very weak defenses down there. So both of us are very weak on our respective home points here. These ogres do end up breaking. Only got 600 value, so certainly a little bit bummed, but they tried their best. And the other ogres over here, how are they doing? They are going to be at about 800 value, and the Marauder Horseman still generating. But you can see, guys, it starts to flip a little bit for Big Daddy Nurgle. And more Pesties are going to be in, and man, oh man, does Bretonnia struggle to deal with Pestigores without their archers online. I mean, some of the Cav can kind of do it. Pestigores aren't like the tankiest. They only have 25 armor, so Shock Cav still hurts them pretty badly. But yeah, the archers are quite strong there. So moving on in, but a huge resurgence from Bretonnia. We do have the Hippogriff Knights called back. So these are the ones from before. They got about 2,000 value in their previous life. And here comes the Curse of the Slug. So Curse of the Slug activated to slow down this Questing Knights, try and kite them a little bit. But the middle objective does start to flip. I mean, Bretonnia is folding up here. Remember, I still have the Soul Grinder, right? Soul Grinder's still doing a lot of work. Chalice of Potions, that was quite nice. And the Chaos Sorcerer Lord trying to finish the Grail Relique. And the Grail Relique is going to get taken down. Yes, it is. So no more leadership shenanigans for Bretonnia on this objective. And now, guys, we got a game on our hands, right? We got a real close game. Nothing being called out yet on this side except the Nurgling, because the Nurgling will defeat this Men-at-Arm polearm, right? So it's going to force a response from my opponent. Meanwhile, up in the high ground, he does threaten me with the 2 questing knights, but the Marauder Horseman able to troll, able to get some beautiful throwing axes and then run back into the trees, hopefully luring them off the objective while some Nurglings and Pestigors come over to stabilize this. And so far, so good. Middle objective in the process of flipping, guys. Really, really tight right here. If we can get this, man, we are right back in this game. You know, it kind of looked like we were in the pits, but you know, Nurgle finds a way. The plagues, they are persistent. So Fury's coming in to rip apart these men-at-arms and allow the Nurglings to threaten the low cap situation. In the middle, we might be able to get it. Looks like up here we are able to stabilize the Pestigors and the Marauder Horse and throwing axes, getting a ton of value against these questing knights. And the middle objective really, really is close to going. That Soul Grinder of Nurgle trying its best. Nurglings, I believe, are the Frolickers, Bubonic, and the Sorcerer Lord, but there is a chance that I'm going to get folded up right there. On the low ground objective, we do immediately start to get the capture weight, as the Furies are such a good counter against Halberds. Halberds are god-awful against Furies. So yeah, we might be able to get this one. If the game, you know, does come down to a triple cap here, which it certainly is. I'm in a triple cap territory. That's going to be pretty big. So we stabilized the high ground, which was huge, right? We stabilized that. No more threats. And now everything is going to be basically focused on the middle objective. Granted, I do start to lose that. The Hippogriff Knights come back in. My Lord does get terrified. I don't really have a lot of capture weight, but Pestigors as well as Nurglings are going to be rolling down there to threaten that. And that's a lot of capture weight. This one does start to flip. And I call out some Marauder Horsemen for a speedy capture weight, while the Furies tear apart the men-at-arms with polearms. Should be pretty good for them. But now we just need to get up here with the Horsemen, as well as the Pestigors and the Nurglings, and the capture weight does go back into our favor, guys. Down here, it's also going to go for us as well. He does start to rotate down there, but I think at the end of the day, probably a mistake. Staying on the middle would be a little bit safer. But guys, we get the low ground objective. We get objective 3 over here. It is in flux, but it's pretty safe. We can get over there, and we just barely miss out on getting the center. Such a close game. It was so good. I do think that he would have had a chance of getting the objective back, but there's a chance if I triple cap him there, which I almost did, that I win the game because he just wouldn't be able to get it back quick enough, right? I could sacrifice things and whatnot, but such a good match. Such a good micro from him, and it was so scrappy. Faded, fine. Archers, 800, 900. Yeah, 800. Like, that's so good for how cheap they are, right? Hippo Knights were super chad, too. Required a ton of micro. Questing Knights performed, Knights of the Realm performed, and yeah, there's a reason why he's the only Bretonnian player who makes it to the top 4 pretty consistently. He's very, very good at the Bretonians, for sure. Yeah, and the Soul Grinder was fine. 2,500 on that, no complaints. You know, I was very apprehensive about it, but I think more Warriors. I don't know, I think they got a ton of value, but like, I think just Warrior spam instead of the Plague Ogres would have been better, right? Like, instead of these Plague Ogres, if I had called in a Warrior and a Marauder, which a Warrior plus a Marauder costs the same as a Plague Ogre Grey Open, I think we're in just a way better situation. It's so much more effort for him to get rid of those than the Plague Ogres, who are just so vulnerable against the Archer Fire. So just like more Warrior Grey Opens. Plague Ogres are good in some matchups, but I don't think this is one of them. They just like, yeah, the Knights of the Realm and the Halberds and the Archers, there's just too much to punish them. So I think that's a little bit risky. Anyways, guys, hopefully you enjoyed this one. GG to Plague Penguin. We'll see you guys around, and that's going to be it for tonight.